Hi everyone, my name is Michael Tan. I'm from the Boston Consulting Group, and with me here I have Professor Lynn Loo, who is the CEO of the Global Center for Maritime Decarbonisation, and we have Seng Chiy Goh, who is a principal at BCG as well. And today we'd like to talk to you about what we've been working on together over the past 6 months. The Global Center for Maritime Decarbonisation and BCG, we've been working on our inaugural Global Maritime Decarbonisation Survey. This is a very exciting survey, and we've gone out very broadly to the industry to ask them some critical questions about the state of decarbonisation across the whole sector. So we were asking them about their vision, their strategy, and their roadmap around maritime decarbonisation. We asked for their perspectives around levers that will help them to decarbonize, looking into areas such as operational levers, technology levers, green fuels, shipboard carbon capture, and what are some important horizontal enablers for them to decarbonize. Are they upgrading and upskilling their workforce? What do they think about policy and regulation, green financing, etc.? We asked the key players around what are their current plans and actions, how they think about the future, and more importantly, what are some of the challenges and frictions they are facing on their decarbonization journey. We were very much pleased that we had overwhelming response from the industry players. In total, we received 130 responses from ship owners and ship operators. Collectively, they represent 14,000 vessels that are sailing in the oceans globally, and altogether accounting for more than US $500 billion worth of revenues. We feel that the survey is very representative because the participants are coming from different geographies around the world. They represent all the key vessel types, and they are owning and operating fleets that are both big and small. And I'm very happy to share some of the leading insights and the fact base that we're finding, which we believe will be important for guiding the industry for their decarbonization journey and to help to accelerate actions ahead. Thank you for the question around what is the strategy for maritime decarbonization moving forward. Through the survey, I think we found it's very important to be able to take a more nuanced view around the performance of different industry players and be able to de-average. Through the survey, we found that actually it's really helpful to be able to break the industry into different groups. So we see a group of front runners. These are companies and ship owners and operators that are very innovative, very committed. They have good plans. And what will really help them moving forward is to be able to continue many cutting-edge technology pilots and to be able to help them with the development of infrastructure that can speed up their green initiatives moving forward. And also to have policy and regulation be able to keep up and support some of their efforts. Within the industry, the second group that we are seeing are what we call the followers. And these are a large group of companies and ship owners and operators. And what we see is that for many of them, they have good green ambitions, and they have also taken the step to already start to implement many of the more established levers. And where many of them are needing help is to be able to speed up. I think we hear from many of them that they are looking forward for a more level playing field. We think regulations will be able to help them. So some innovation around regulations and being able to get more information out will be helpful for the big group of followers that are out there. The third group of companies that we're seeing through the survey is what we call the conservative players. And these are players that are much more at the beginning, at the start of their journey around maritime decarbonization. And for them, there are two important factors to help them to speed up. So the first is to be able to do a lot more awareness building and education for them about key levers that are proven and can help them to really go green. And secondly, to be able to help them on capacity and capability building. So these are the efforts that we think will be able to help different groups of companies in the maritime decarbonization journey. There is no one-size-fits-all, but if we're able to pursue them in a rapid manner, this will do a lot to help the industry be much faster and be much more impactful in their journey.
So I think first, when we think about green transition or net zero, I think fuel will be very important. Right? When we think about the fuel transition, right, I think we're still very early stages of using green fuels. You look at methanol, you look at ammonia. I think while we still have those vessels there, right, many ships are not actually burning those fuels because they're not available at ports. So I think first thing that we definitely need will be policymakers to actually show that you need infrastructure at ports, but also people who actually build infrastructure and invest in infrastructure at ports to make the molecules available for adoption. But nevertheless, fuel is just one solution. It will take time. From our survey, when we asked respondents, on average, they will only retrofit or actually equip vessels with up to 10 or 11 years old, right, with future fuel capabilities. And when we look at the fleet today, this means that more than 65% of the fleet will never consume a drop of future fuel. And this number is likely to be higher because of shipyard constraints, because of investments, because of willingness to spend in infrastructure. And so because of that, we need to pull other levers. We can't just look at future fuels as the only solution. We need to look at efficiency levers, like what Mike and Lynn had mentioned. We need to think at drop-in fuels to use existing engines, whether it's biofuels or otherwise. We need to look at shipboard carbon capture. And from our survey, we actually found that the industry as a whole, across archetypes or across groups, followers, frontrunners, conservatives, they are all quite optimistic about shipboard carbon capture and its role towards net zero, even though it's so nascent today. And so we need to exhaust all of these levers to be able to actually bridge from where we are to where we need to be by 2030 or so. But nevertheless, we do need to also account for the fact that the industry is heterogeneous, like what Mike and Lynn mentioned. I think people at different stages, people need different levels of support. We need to help the frontrunners continue to push with infrastructure to adopt fuels. We need regulations. We need a way to actually help followers not be too far away from frontrunners. There will always be followers. Not everyone can be a frontrunner, but hopefully they're not too far. The gap is too far. We need fast followers. And so regulations and some way of actually having a cost of non-compliance would be important to keeping that pace. And then there's a large group of conservatives, which, like Mike mentioned earlier, constrained by awareness, not sure what's out there. So how can we help to contextualize and help them navigate the solutions out there? Because there are many, many technological solutions, operational solutions, and they're not even adopting the most simple or most established solutions. So how can we uplift them? Because from our estimates, like Lynn mentioned, it's highly correlated, and we think about 45% of the fleet or so would be owned by conservatives. And if we don't bring them along in this journey, then we will not be able to meet our targets.
So I think the answer to that question is nuance. It's both yes and no. It's yes because we see high ambition overall. 70% of our respondents are prioritizing decarbonization and prioritizing net zero. Of those, 75% have net zero or intermediate targets. And then if we look at roadmaps, 30% already have roadmaps in place, with another 60% that are planning and developing roadmaps. So to us, that indicates that the industry is at a turning point, that they are now moving from declaring ambition to making action. Because having roadmaps means you have a strategy that's often associated with commercial operations. So that's what I'm optimistic about, and that's what I'm hopeful about. But if we look at those numbers, and as Mike had mentioned, the three different archetypes, the frontrunners, the followers, and the conservatives is a big group. We know that shipping is very, very heterogeneous. And in fact, in terms of fleet sizes, more than 60% of the ships on water today are owned by vessel owners that have less than 20 vessels. In fact, the average number of ships a ship owner owns is 4.5 vessels. And often this group is strongly correlated with being a conservative. And so for me at GCMD, it's thinking about how we can help facilitate this group in moving along that decarbonization journey. As long as we're talking about decarbonization, as long as we're talking about net zero, we need everybody to move along. So it's very important that we get the conservatives to move as fast as they can as well, while we support the front runners to have them move even faster.
So when we think about the scale of the problem, right? Really being able to decarbonize and reach net zero at 2050 and reach the intermediate targets earlier, as well as the pace that we need to get there. I think no single company, ship owner, or otherwise can get there alone. I think it needs to be collaborative effort. It needs to be concerted effort to go from where we are to actually meeting those targets. And that's why partnerships will be critical. Partnerships to do technology pilots, to be able to help prove and establish the maturity of certain solutions, right, between solution providers and adopters. Partnerships for data sharing amongst early adopters so that they have confidence in deploying some of these solutions. Partnerships for infrastructure build, right, amongst governments, ports, suppliers, etc., to make sure the molecules are there. Partnerships for policy development and regulations, market-based measures and otherwise, to make sure that they are fit for purpose and able and sustainable from a business angle as well. Partnerships for standards, operational standards, technical standards, and more. And so as you see, there's a lot of work to be done. But I think if we come together as an industry, right, as an ecosystem where everyone actually contributes what they have, I think that's possible for us to actually go from where we are to where we need to be in the near term and the long term.
Yeah, sure. I'll take us back to why we did this survey. The reason the Global Center for Maritime Decarbonisation is interested in doing this survey is so that we can understand the appetite and the ambition of the ship owners and ship charterers and operators so that we can better support them in their decarbonization journey. And so with that respect, I think I can talk about the projects that we're doing and how that fits and how that can support the different archetypes. We have a project on looking at ammonia safety for bunkering. Ammonia has been talked about as a marine fuel, as a green fuel, but it's never been used as a marine fuel. It's been used always as a feedstock and as a chemical. And to use it as a marine fuel means we need to think about its safety, we need to think about training people, we need to get the ecosystem confident and comfortable with the idea of using a new chemical as a fuel. So I think by addressing some of these challenges associated with safety, associated with training, doing pilots in this area, we can lower the barrier for the front runners to adopt ammonia as a marine fuel. I mean, this is one part of it. There needs to be other parts, including having the vessels available, having the infrastructure available. But certainly we can do our part. Another pilot that we're involved with is shipboard carbon capture. Shipboard carbon capture is, according to our respondents to the survey, is something that they all think is an important part of the portfolio of solutions. And so, but shipboard carbon capture would only work if we can think about the fate of that CO2 after it's been captured and after it's been liquefied. So GCMD is looking at how you can offload that CO2 from ships and who's going to offtake that CO2, because by closing that circularity of the CO2 and understanding the fate of that CO2, you can again lower the barriers for adoption. Last but not least, we have a pilot on looking at building transparency and traceability of drop-in biofuels, so looking at the supply chain. And here we think we can build confidence because these fuels are going to be more expensive, so we can build confidence for what the green premium is buying. And so there we believe we can help the followers in building the confidence in adopting these kinds of fuels.